Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to New World News. I'm your host, Franny Hoover. Today, the body of John the Savage was found in his lighthouse by a group of men and women. After his peculiar attempt to remove himself from society, he sprawled in a deep state of depression, which eventually led to his suicide. In memoriam of every World State member's favorite savage, we bring you a newscast from several months ago where we interviewed various people involved in the Savage's brief stay in our land. Today on New World News, we have an exclusive interview with Lenina, the beta that is seeing the now famous Savage known as John, who is visiting our brave new world, as well as the man in charge of the visit, Bernard Marx. Later in the program, the truth behind Soma. Is it really worth it? We are now going to turn to our interviewer, Action Blackson. Action? Here's a message from our Soma sponsors.
When you're feeling down, pass the Soma around. Take a gram to the dome and you'll be in your zone. Alpha, beta, delta, gamma, epsilon clones.
Doesn't matter who you are, you feel like a king on the throne. Just one hit of Soma, give you a 10-hour high. No guilt, no hangovers, no reason to cry. So make sure that you go out and try to buy all the Soma you can before you eventually die.
Wow, after hearing that brief announcement, it makes me want to take some Soma myself.
Thanks, Franny. I'm here with Lenina, a beta factory worker. And Lenina, is it true that you first met the Savage when visiting a reservation in New Mexico with Bernard Marx?
It is.
And for the people at home who don't know what that's like, could you tell us what that's like? Is it as barbaric as everyone has depicted in the Feelies?
Even more so. On one of the nights we were there, the Savages partook in this odd ritual. They hoisted up a statue of a man on a cross, as well as a large bird, an eagle I think, and then they began chanting. And then a boy about my age was whipped until he passed out from the pain. I found the whole thing rather gruesome and disturbing. I had to look away.
Well, I don't blame you, Lenina. The whole thing sounds very, savage.
I do suppose the name had to come from somewhere.
Well, perhaps we found that somewhere, Lenina. But now, the question that's burning on everybody's mind. What's it like to have sex with a savage?
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't tell you. I haven't slept with one.
What? Well, you haven't slept with one?
I have not slept with one.
Well, that's all the time we have for now, but if you ever do get that savage to perform, give us a call. We will put you back on the air. Ford knows our viewers would love to know.
Will do, Action.
Back to you, Franny.
Thanks, Action. We now cut to our news correspondent, Michael Hawk, with an interview with the man who dodged exile, Bernard Marx. Mike?
Thank you, Franny. I'm here at the hatchery with Bernard Marx, where Director Thomas has just resigned due to the surfacing of some scandalous information. The director has a son, and the celebrity savage, John, at that. Bernard?
Please, call me Mr. Marx.
Ah, of course. Mr. Marx, as the man responsible for this revelation, what are your thoughts on the subject?
Well, Mike, I believe that while it's not the action of having a son that is so shameful for him, but rather his long-time condemnation of it.
Are you saying that fathering a son isn't something that should be frowned upon?
Well, I believe that in today's societal norms, it isn't as accepted as it was in the past in the time of our Ford. The action fathering and giving birth to a child, while is an odd and even taboo concept by today's standards, isn't in fact a natural thing.
That is an interesting view, Mr. Marx.
Well, what can I say? I'm an interesting person.
That you are, Mr. Marx. That you are. Your unofficial position as John's guardian has given you a quick rise to fame, hasn't it?
That it has, Mike.
Well, there you have it, folks. The inside scoop on the man responsible for the director's resignation and the guardian of John the Savage. It was good talking to you, Mr. Marx.
I'm sure it was, Mike. Anytime.
Back to you, Franny.
Thank you, Mike. I am now joined by Dr. Shaw, as well as the Savage of the Hour, John, to discuss the world state use of Soma. Dr. Shaw, why do you think people take Soma?
People take Soma as a release from negative emotions, and also because there are no residual side effects. These effects, such as vomiting and headaches, are completely absent from the Soma experience. Every Soma holiday is a bit of what our ancestors used to call eternity.
Eternity was in our lips and eyes.
Eh?
Our ancestors were able to experience these things without narcotic drugs.
That may be so. However, our world is not the same as Othello's was. The world's stable now. People are happy. They can get what they want, and they don't want what they cannot get. They're so conditioned that they cannot help behaving the way that they ought to. And if anything were to go wrong, there's Soma.
Wow, what an interesting opinion. John, how do you feel about what Dr. Shaw has to say?
Well, Franny, I simply believe that Soma isn't right. Isn't it true that Soma can actually shorten one's life in large doses?
Well, in one sense, yes. However, the years of experience of warped perception of time that actually feels like they have immeasurable durations of time.
Okay, but that still doesn't make it right. I believe that Soma is simply a drug manufactured for the purpose of mass control. Soma takes away one's ability to think freely and ultimately separate ourselves from reality.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thank you for your viewership, and thank you for your time. The newscast you just witnessed was several months ago, before the exile of Bernard Marx and the death of John's mother, Linda. The man seen behind the exile of John's friend's world controller, Mustafa Mond, refused to comment on John's suicide. Our world is certainly a less exciting place without him. Next time on New World News, the debate of Soma continue. We'll see you then.